India, take Singapore and so on, how practically in one generation you can, in some sense, catch up with. At least at some, now you will say, but we in India, we still have all our problems, castes and so on. And this brings me to the crucial feature where this is what interests me in India. You are not special here. Not special in good sense for you, that when people think, there is this racist cliché in the West. This is almost the main association with India today in the West. Bangalore programmer, excellent programmer, but nonetheless, in the morning, before he goes to his job, he burns the incenses to some divinity and so on. What a paradox and so on. But I think this is the logic of global capitalism. I don't think global capitalism works. Here I disagree with some post-colonial thinkers who read global capitalism as a threat to local traditions. I think yes and no. Often it even resuscitates local traditions. I think global capitalism thrives with and needs multiculturalism in the sense of all the diversity of culture. If nothing else, it's a wonderful market. It prevents political unification and so on of the opponent. So what I would say is that India is for me usually, if there is one thing where I would change my book, it's that I would add India to China. There I take, if you read it, as the model of where maybe we are going, China. China in the sense of a capitalism, it looks even more dynamic, productive in all senses, also in destructive sense, productive than Western capitalism. But I think the liberals who think, give them 10 years, another Tiananmen revolution, no. But you in India are maybe here you will, maybe not, I don't know. It's always a mystery where something new emerges, no? With your, nonetheless, much stronger embedded, peaceful spirit of, I know you also have problems, I'm not an idiot, but nonetheless, spirit of tolerance, let's call them naively democratic traditions and so on. You are in a situation for me where what I'm tempted to call the contradictions of global capitalism are condensed in a certain way, where I think maybe I don't think that new phenomena, new in the good sense of new emancipatory phenomena, will emerge. They will emerge, I don't think they will emerge in really poor, non-developed countries. They are too desperate, they cannot do it. Unfortunately, I also don't think they will emerge in the developed West. We have to look to countries like India, where, you have already, remember in Russia, it was similar in 1917. It was undeveloped, but at the same time ultra-developed, like India. People forget that Russia were not just primitive 100 million or however of farmers. It was also a very developed working class, developed scientific art, and so on and so on. I see India as a potential site. So that would have been sincerely my greatest self-criticism. But can I ask you a very brief question? Where do you disagree, this is what I don't see, with my basic characterization, very vague, I know, of global capitalism today?
Well, I think the symbolic substance, for instance,
Yeah. What I call symbolic substance,
yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by it because you don't completely elaborate it, and I was also wondering how that would particularly relate to India.
I simply mean what Marx called general intellect, Yeah. The idea being that more and more I accept this development predicted by Marx himself, that more and more knowledge, distribution, control, organization of knowledge is one of the key factors, which is why the control for it, the struggle for distribution of knowledge is one of the key struggles. This is all, I don't mean anything mysterious. What I don't agree is, nonetheless, those who see too much of an easy solution, like Tony Negri. He simply thinks with this new capitalism, communism already won. For him, we are almost there. He even said in an interview in Brazil, I'm here as an evil detective, you know, he's careful not to say this in Europe. But, you know, there in Brazil, he thought we are not reading it. He said, no need today to fight capitalism. Capitalism is already communist. We just have to reappropriate it. That's way too much to say for me.
I just wanted to ask you two questions. One is basically you described about the Jacobin terror and the Stalinist terror. Is there any difference between the Jacobin terror and the Stalinist terror? Jacobin terror and the Stalinist terror, and what is happening as the so-called Islamic terror now. Is there any distinction between these three genealogies of terror?
Which is the third one, sorry?
Jacobin terror.
Yeah. Jacobin, Stalinist, you said the third one.
Third one is Islamic terror.
Oh, absolutely. No, wait a minute. When I say, okay, let's even add the fourth one, the fascist, Nazi terror. Absolutely, but don't misunderstand me, because here the field is so sensitive, the liberal hegemony is so strong that if you even insist on a difference between Stalinist and Nazi terror, you are already accused of justifying Stalin or whatever. I'm not saying at the level of human suffering. Maybe Stalinism was even a little bit worse. Why? Because, look, let me improvise a little bit. Maybe it will amuse you, but these are tragic stories for amusement. Let's say I am an ordinary citizen in Moscow 36 or in 37 or in Berlin 37. In Berlin, let's say, and this is to say a lot, I am lucky enough not to be a Jew, not to be ex-communist, and not to have any enemies in the Nazi party. Under these conditions, I can be pretty sure to survive. Till the war, of course, then, no? Let's say I'm an ordinary citizen in Soviet Union in 37. The Stalinist purges were much more irrational in the sense that they can hit anyone. It was the logic of Stalinist purges was a totally different one. I tried in my other book, Defense of the Lost Causes, and some previous books, I tried to develop some differences. Let me give you a simple example. Do you know, and I read this in a book, Anne Applebaum, Gulag, very critical. Do you know that every year on Stalin's birthday, even in the darkest Gulag, all inmates were collected, gathered, and they had to sign a telegram to Comrade Stalin, wishing him all the best for his birthday, and so on. You cannot even imagine the same thing in Nazi